Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 18th of April, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So I think this episode is going to be another staking heavy episode because there's actually a lot happening. There has been a lot happening since Chappella went live, but a few things I want to get through, especially with regards to Rocketpool. But starting off, the ETH staking flow for the past 24 hours is back into the green here, and this was as of, I believe, it was a little while ago now, over 12 hours ago, where there was more staked ETH going in than going out here. And yeah, no, wow, it's actually gone up much more. You can see on this dashboard here from Hildobby that the net flow for the past 24 hours is 83,174 ETH. And really, most of the ETH that was withdrawn were the rewards. And I remember I told you guys about the rewards quite a while ago, that there were over 1 million ETH, I believe, worth of rewards that needed to be withdrawn. There are still rewards that are obviously going to be withdrawn, like just on an ongoing basis every time people accrue consensus layer rewards, or validators, I should say, accrue consensus layer rewards. They're going to be automatically withdrawn. But there's also, I think, maybe 15-ish% of the network that still hasn't converted their credentials to 0x01 credentials, so their automatic withdrawals aren't happening yet. They don't happen until it's been converted. So there is still I would say 15% of that ETH that was earned before withdrawals were enabled that hasn't been withdrawn. Now, of course, if those people haven't converted their credentials yet, it means they're in no rush to get their ETH rewards, which means that they're not really going to sell them when they get their rewards, right? So I think that's kind of, it doesn't really mean much thinking about that percentage there. But yeah, you can see here, as I said, on Hildobby's dashboard, the net flow has been 83,000 ETH in the last 24 hours. Now, of course, I should actually talk about these two tweets first. One from Elias Simos, who is at the Rated Network, works on Rated Network, which is a website that I show you guys constantly. He tweeted out, centralized exchange stake reshuffling underway on Ethereum. At least 15,000 validators in the exit queue shared between Binance, Coinbase, and Kraken. Meanwhile, on-chain pools are adding. I really love that he used the reshuffling term here because I'm pretty sure I coined this. I'm going to take credit for it because I haven't seen anyone else coin this, but you guys know I've been going on about this great reshuffling for a long time now. It's not a recent thing. And I saw people start using their reshuffling term after I started using it. So I feel like I coined it, but regardless of that, I think it's worth talking a bit about it now that we're 5 days, 5 days into Chappella being live, or 5 or 6 days now. What I wanted to say about it was, I think I've said a few times on the refuel already that it's not going to happen overnight, right? It's going to be like a month-long, potentially year-long process for a few different reasons. And the major reason I think that a lot of people maybe aren't aware of is that because of the entry and exit queue, logically, it's going to take a while for ETH to be reshuffled. Even if, for example, 10% of, I'm just pulling a percentage out of the Ether here, but it's, let's say 10% of all Lido stakers wanted, or all Lido validators wanted to be withdrawn and wanted to go somewhere else. Well, that will take a long time because that's a lot of validators to withdraw and then to redeposit, because we're only counting the validators as being part of a pool when they're actually active, right? Obviously, when they've been deposited, you can say, okay, well, in the future, at such and such date, this is going to be active. But I think most of the dashboards only start showing it when it's actually been activated once it's gone through the queue, or when it's actually exited once it's gone through the exit queue, right? So from that perspective, it's going to take a while just because it's technically limited. But on top of that as well, as I said, there are more and more products going online. Those staking products need to get more lindy. People need to feel more comfortable with them. People need to learn how to change pools and things like that. And there are staking services that haven't even enabled withdrawals yet. I believe Binance is enabling withdrawals, or has already pretty much, either yesterday or today or something like that. And Lido, as you guys know, are not doing it until probably mid-May. So there are still obviously these withdrawals that need to be enabled. And Lido is 30% or 31% of all staked ETH. So it's a big thing there. But of course, people can always exit via ST-ETH and get ETH and then go stake somewhere else. But that doesn't take the ETH from the beacon chain. Now, someone from the Rated Web team here, Rob quote tweeted Elias with a little graphic here that shows the data of withdrawing, or the data of which staking entities are part of the execute right now. So it's no longer dominated by Kraken. Kraken is still number one with 7,300 validators in the queue at time of screenshot here. Binance at 6,000 and Coinbase at almost 2,000. I think a lot of Coinbase's withdrawals here is coming from the arbitrage between CB and the Beacon chain. Binance, I would imagine, is probably similar here. Kraken obviously doesn't have an LSD, and we know why Kraken is withdrawing all their validators because they're legally forced to do it. So I think that really the Binance and Coinbase withdrawals here are coming from that arbitrage, and then there's others, and the others, it's kind of, you don't exactly know who they are. I mean, I'm sure you can look on chain and get an idea about it, but there's an others category here. So I just wanted to focus on Kraken, Binance, and Coinbase here. Now, on top of that, Elias said that we're seeing that on-chain pools are adding stake, and that's exactly what's happening with Rocketpool. So since Atlas went live today, or I guess within the last 24 hours, Jasper says here, the game is on. Tens of thousands of ETH is being staked with Rocketpool today. So this has led to a massive increase in mini pools that have gotten spun up on Rocketpool, and you can see here Whack from the daily Rocketpool show called Rocketfuel has tweeted out in a reply to Jasper saying, right now we're on track for over 2,500 new validators in a 24-hour period for Rocketpool. This is 7 times greater than the previous best ever day, and this is just the beginning. And this was tweeted at 4 p.m. and I'm recording this at 11 p.m. my time. So this was about 7 hours ago. Now, there's a dashboard where you can keep track of these things, and I'll link this dashboard in the YouTube description below here. But if you scroll down to the bottom, you can actually see stats around the Atlas upgrade. So you can see here how many new Leb 8 mini pools have been spun up, bond reductions for Leb 8s, and how many solo stakers have started migration. So there's about 49 solo stakers that have started migration so far, which is actually very, very cool to see. And as I just mentioned, there is over 2,500 new validators waiting to spin up with Rocketpool here, and tens of thousands of ETH going into Rocketpool. So it seems that Rocketpool has been one of the biggest, if not the biggest, on-chain beneficiary of this great reshuffling so far, and that's really amazing to see because obviously Rocketpool is a decentralized staking service and they're quite small right now compared to other staking services, so we want to see them grow as much as possible from here, obviously. And of course, you guys know I'm pretty big into the Rocketpool community and ecosystem. I'm an ODAO member, so there's probably some bias there, but you guys already know that. But I think that it's not a bad project to be biased towards, considering the mission and goals and aim of what Rocketpool is trying to do, which is just really, really great to see. So yeah, the great shuffling is underway. It is happening. As I said, it's going to take a while for it to play out. It's not going to happen overnight, or it's not going to happen within a few months. It's going to be years worth. And that's why I said I would love to revisit what the staking ecosystem looks like in terms of what services have what percentage share a year after Shapala. So April 12th, 2024, I think we can look back and we can see where stake was shuffled to, what staking service had what percentage on April 12th, what they have now, and see how the ecosystem has changed there. I think it's going to look quite different, honestly. I think there's going to be some surprise new entrants that people don't expect that's going to come onto the scene and get market share. I think that the existing players like Rocketpool are going to grow a lot. I think that Lido is going to lose a bit of dominance there because they've had such a stranglehold and such a huge dominance for a while. And once they enable withdrawals, it's going to be interesting to see how much ETH leaves Lido operators and goes somewhere else. And I think that the centralized exchanges will also lose some ETH to solo staking, to Rocketpool staking, and other such things, especially because LSDs within DeFi or native on-chain LSDs can be supercharged, and especially with things like restaking, it's going to get crazy. Like the TLDR of everything I just said is that the Ethereum staking ecosystem is going to get crazy, and I can't wait to revisit this in about a year. Now, speaking of Rocketpool, last thing here, Gravatar Protocol put out a tweet thread about Rocketpool's Atlas upgrade. Just a quick thread here about what it brings to the table and why it's good and why you should be excited about it. So I just figured I'd highlight that for you guys to read. I'll link that thread in the YouTube description below. All right, last thing about staking. So I've been teasing for a couple of weeks now that I had been playing around with the Obol network software. Now, just a disclaimer here before I move on, before I continue, I am an investor in Obol network here, and they, as an investor and as a long time ETH staker, I was approached by the Obol team to be part of this alpha cluster on mainnet. So I basically put out a quote tweet here, quote tweeting Obol Labs announcement where they announced that they've launched their alpha of the product on mainnets, and I quote tweeted saying, I've been participating in the Obol Alpha launch for a few weeks now, running one of the first distributed validators on mainnet with 3 others from around the world. I believe that DVT, or distributed validator technology, is the future of staking and can't wait to see people form squads to stake their ETH together. So that's what I've been teasing. I am running this software, the Obol software, on my solo staking box. So it's the same box that I've been solo staking on for quite a while now. With all my solo staking validators on there, I'm running the Obol software alongside that, and I am 1/4 of a validator. And as you can see here, Colin Myers, from one of the founders of Obol Network, says that the cluster is running out of India, Australia, South Korea, and New Zealand. So basically spanning the globe here. I guess like India is probably the furthest away from where I am here, and there's obviously no US or I guess like a Europe representation here. But it's cool to see that this is still distributed. It's not like that everyone's in Australia or everyone's in the US except me or something. This is actually distributed around the globe, and we are all actively part of this validator, which is staking on mainnet, doing attestations, block proposals, all that good stuff there. And my experience with setting up the software was really straightforward. Obviously, given that it's alpha, there is going to be hiccups here and there, and I was run through how to set it all up by the Obol team themselves. But honestly, the biggest hiccup I ran into was my own setup. It had nothing to do with the Obol software. There were a few tweaks that I needed to do for my own setup to make it work, which wasn't too hard in the end. We figured it out in the end, but I tweaked a bit of that, and everything has been running fine ever since then. So yeah, kudos to the Obol team for building out such an easy to use software that allows people to stake in a distributed fashion here. Now, the reason why I say that DVT is the future of staking, there's a few reasons here. One of them is that DVT leads to more resilience and security for a staking operation. So for example, there's 4 of us in this staking cluster right now. If one of us goes offline, when the software works correctly, obviously it's alpha right now, so it may sometimes not work correctly, but the way it's supposed to work is that if one person goes offline, the other 3 can still attest. So it means the validator doesn't actually go offline. Now, you can extrapolate this out and not just talk about multiple people running multiple clusters across the globe, but one person or one entity running their validator, running a validator cluster in multiple places. So say they're running a part of their validator as part of a cluster in AWS or some kind of VPS. Say they're running another part at home. Say they have somewhere else that they're running it. Maybe another place that they own, or another VPS that's not in the US. Maybe it's in Asia or something like that. That adds redundancy, and that is still one operator, but it means that it adds safe redundancy without having to worry about double signing and things like that, and allows you to stay online even if one of your connections goes offline for a power outage reason or for internet going off reason or anything like that. So this technology is super exciting from that front. Another reason why it's exciting is because of that squad staking that I've spoken about, where essentially people with less than 32 ETH can pool their ETH together and then still all be able to run these validators as part of a cluster, like I am with these people from around the world here, and get that resiliency and security as well. So those 2 things alone are going to be major level ups for Ethereum staking when Obol and other such DVD technologies like SSV network reach a more mature state here, and I believe this stuff is going to be used by some of the big staking operators. It makes a lot of sense for it to be used there. So I'm just very excited about this, very proud of what the team has built, of course. I mentioned earlier that I'm an investor in Obol. I've been an investor for quite a while now, actually. I can't remember exactly when I invested. Maybe I can quickly bring it up here just to give you an idea of how long these guys have been building this out for, alongside the obviously Ethereum staking roadmap here. but I'm just looking it up. Obol, here we go. I invested in October. Is that October? Yeah, October of 2021. So it's quite a while now, right? It's 18 months since I invested in them, and they had been building that before I invested here. So a lot of their hard work is paying off. It works. The technology, it's not theory, it's practical. It's on mainnet. It is still in an alpha fashion, but we hopefully will move towards a beta and a proper, full public mainnet release sooner rather than later. So yeah, that's what as I said, that is what I've been teasing over the past few weeks, and very proud to be part of one of the first mainnet clusters as part of the Obol network. All right, Terence from the Off-Chain Labs here has written up a quick write-up here on 2 slots PBS with unconditional payment and what it takes to implement it on the networking side. 2 slots PBS looks more feasible than last week's write-up on 1 slot. So this is a follow-up to what I highlighted last week from Terence about the 1 slot PBS, and you can go give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, but it's not too long. It basically is just a few ideas here of how to do this, and there's also a reply here from Domothy, who is a researcher at the Ethereum Foundation, saying something feels off to me about having builders first put their ETH on the consensus layer when MEV is really all just a bunch of ETH that lives on the execution layer. So there's obviously a lot of R&D and back and forth happening between researchers around this, but it's great to see this making movement here, because as I've said in the past, I think one of the most critical upgrades for Ethereum over the next maybe 2 to 3 years is PBS. We definitely need in protocol PBS, and we need it as soon as we can get it. And there are a lot of smart people working on it, so I think that we're going to get there. But this is how this kind of forms out. People write up things, write up research. People read the research, maybe they tear it apart, maybe they like it, and then once it gets to a point where the researchers basically all agree that this is something that could be turned into a spec, then the engineers start building it out in clients, and then obviously we go through all the dev nets, test nets, and then eventually onto mainnet. So it is a long process, but we do get there in the end. So just great to see the continued research here on the PBS side. All right, so there is a new ENS app that is now live in alpha on mainnet. So if you go to alpha.ens.domains, you can actually see this. So if I search for a name here, let's search sassel.eth, of course, and bring up what this looks like. This is what they had been teasing for a little while here. Basically a new interface to see your profile. So you can see here my profile with my picture that I've got attached to it, my address, avatar, my managers, when it expires, and you can see all of the menu items here, profile, record, sub names, and more. And then you can upgrade. So upgrading your name unlocks the latest functionality of ENS, and it will walk you through how to upgrade this. So obviously I haven't upgraded or migrated my profile yet, or wrapped my name or anything like that, but that prompts you to do that right at the top if you are the owner of that ENS there. So just really cool to see a much more simplified and streamlined ENS profile page here. Obviously, if we want ENS to go mainstream, we want more people to use it, we need to make it so that it's not scary for them to use. We need to make it look like a social media profile, essentially. And that's exactly what this looks like to me. When you go edit your Twitter profile or something like that, you have similar fields that you need to fill in and things like that. But, sometimes the fields can be scary if you don't know what they're doing. You don't know if you should change them or not. But I think that's what ENS is addressing here with this. But do keep in mind, this is an alpha release. It is not a beta, or it is not like production. It's alpha. It is live on mainnet though, so you can do things with it. But if you experience bugs, feel free to jump into the ENS social channels, let them know. I'm sure they would love to hear about it. All right, CowSwap has launched something called partially fillable limit orders on the exchange here. So it's now enabled by default. Partial fills bring faster trade settlement to limit orders, even in moments of low liquidity. Now, partially fillable limit orders are nothing new. They've been around for as long as pretty much trading has been around, whether it's crypto or otherwise, but they haven't been on CowSwap until now. So it's great to see that CowSwap has integrated this. You guys know that CowSwap is one of my favorite exchanges, especially to make big trades on, because it protects you from MEV, and it gives you some of the best kind of like execution price for your trades. Well, now with partially fillable orders, it's going to give you even better execution price and an even better fill, even if it's not able to fill your entire order here. So yeah, you can go check out this blog post to read the full breakdown of what this is and what this means for CowSwap. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, along with the little Twitter thread here as well. All right, so Espresso Systems has put out another document, this time all about shared sequencing. So they tweeted out by saying L2s are scaling Ethereum, but the vast number of rollups threatens to break composability within the Ethereum ecosystem, fragmenting liquidity and creating friction. Enter the shared sequencer. So this document, you can go give a read for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, but they have a Twitter thread here explaining this as well. And they start off the thread by saying, cross rollup bridging is similar to cross L1 bridging, but with an added challenge. The two rollups may not share the same consensus protocol for sequencing or method of supporting execution like clients. So how would a shared sequencer help with the cost of infra for cross-rollup interoperability? Rollups would no longer need to implement sequencing like clients for each rollup they interoperate with. Each rollup reads from the sequencer, which provides a global ordering over all transactions. And then they continue on here. So basically, Espresso Systems is claiming that they're going to be able to build a shared sequencer that will fix a lot of the issues around the fragmented liquidity and fragmented L2 ecosystem, which is great. I mean, I've said to you guys before, there's many solutions when it comes to fragmented liquidity, from bridging solutions, from some of the solutions like Starkware DAMM and Rari's Fuse, which are old implementations now that haven't really gone anywhere, but the research from that can be picked up. There's also Herodotus that is doing state proofs for interoperability and other such solutions like that. So there are a lot of solutions here for this, and it's not something that, it's funny. It's not something that I see a lot of people complaining about. I think the bridges that we have today are actually okay for a lot of people. Obviously, it's not the most ideal solution, but I don't see people really complaining about the fragmentation of liquidity across L2s or users across L2s. What really ends up happening is that people just gravitate towards, a handful of these things and basically do all of their activity there, and then that just network effect begets network effect. But what if we could do that interoperability where it doesn't matter what layer you were on, you didn't have to pick like a winner, or you didn't have to, make sure that you were going to the right layer, or the right layer 2. You would be able to just have a shared sequencing among them all and be able to have interoperability among them all. And that's exactly what Espresso Systems believes they can do with their shared sequencer design. So yeah, definitely go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. Something that I think is worth reading, worth getting your head around, because as I said yesterday, I do believe that L2s are the main thing going forward. I do believe we're going to get a big L2 season eventually. I do believe, and still strongly believe, and I said this a while ago, but I still strongly believe that L2s are where pretty much all the opportunity lies in the Ethereum ecosystem these days, at least on the user-facing side of things and the app layer side of things. So definitely do not fall behind on the layer 2 front. It is the next frontier for Ethereum. All right, last up here is just a tweet that I saw from Matt Feinstein, where he said, you only need to go to one legitimate Ethereum in-person event, hackathon, or conference to know why it's winning and to become an Ethereum for life. If you can't make an event, no worries, just recreate the knowledge sharing and energy by reading and participating online. I'm a big advocate for this, and you guys know every time I go to a conference and I come back, I think it's only happened twice now because the refuel actually started during COVID, and I only have been to 2 conferences since then. I went to Amsterdam, ETH Amsterdam, and ETH Denver. But every time I come back, I just feel like a massive boost of energy and a massive kind of boost in morale, even though I'm obviously pretty positive on the Ethereum ecosystem already. But a lot of that comes from the fact that going to these in-person events just keeps reiterating and reinforcing my strongly held belief that Ethereum it has won already and is going to keep winning, and its ecosystem is the best in crypto by far. Now, obviously, I can tell you all about this as much as I want, but unless you experience it for yourself, I don't think the point is going to get through. So if you can, it is highly recommended that you get out to at least one Ethereum event, preferably a kind of like a conference that is an Ethereum conference and that is not a small one. Small ones are still fine, but if you want to get the full experience, I do recommend going to the bigger ones. They definitely are overwhelming. It depends on what kind of person you are. If you're introverted normally, or if you don't do well with large crowds, maybe it's not for you. It all depends on personal preference here. But personally, for me, I mean, I don't consider myself an extrovert. I actually am pretty introverted a lot of the time. But honestly, going to these events, being surrounded by so many like-minded people, so many people who just care care about growing the Ethereum mission, so many aligned people that I just get along with so much. It is the best time of my life. Like I said to you guys, when I got back from ETH Denver, it really did feel like I had the best time of my life there. And it was just so amazing being amongst everyone. And that's exactly what Matt is saying here. So yeah, if you can make it out to these things, definitely do so. And as I've stated before, even if you don't have the funds and you can't afford the flights or accommodation, there are a lot of the times the events themselves will have a limited number of spots that they can sponsor. So they can sponsor people to come, especially if you're a hacker or a developer, you can get sponsored to go to these events. And it's done on an event by event basis. So you definitely need to just look and see if the event supports that. But that option is available to you as well there. But you know, a lot of these things take place in the US. A lot of them take place in Europe. And I know a lot of people out there in crypto, I mean, the majority, I would say, are from the US and Europe. And the thing is, there are conferences all over the world. There are even conferences in Australia. Like, there's not that many, but there are some here that I've enjoyed. I enjoyed the recent NFT Fest. Even though it was an NFT branded conference, there are a lot of people there that were into way more than NFTs, right? So I really, really enjoyed that. I hope there's like going to be an ETH Global in Australia at one point. I went to EdCon in 2019 when, you know, this was April 2019, EdCon in Sydney. It was tiny, but still amazing. It was my first Ethereum conference. I had the time of my life back then as well. So yeah, hopefully I'm just hitting the point home for you that you should definitely attend these things and get amongst it, because it really just energizes you. It gives you a sense of kind of belonging, which is, I think, you know, innately human to want to belong somewhere. And I think for a lot of us who spend a lot of our times online, it's good to just get amongst people and put faces to Discord names and Twitter names and things like that. Now, in saying all of that, I don't know what the next conference I'll be going to is. If ETH Tokyo wasn't held like so soon after I got back from Denver, I would have probably gone to that. I won't be at ETHCC because getting to Europe is like a 30-hour trip, and I'm not going to go just to go to a 2-day conference, right? So I'm not sure at this point. Maybe Dev Connect, depending where it is. We'll have to see, right? But yeah, definitely get out there if you can. And I'll of course let you guys know which ones I'm at. And I'll hopefully do another Daily Gwei meetup in the future for those who weren't able to attend the one at ETH Denver there. But I think on that very positive note, I'm going to end today's episode there. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.